Hi, Chris here. We finished our unit on Google Docs. Now we're looking at spreadsheets, and spreadsheets are great for displaying data and also really good for doing calculations, especially if you're doing repeating calculations. So we're going to have a look at a few assignments. The first one's going to be fairly straightforward. We're just going to type this in, but we're going to use where we see X's, we're going to make a calculation. Make sure we're going to use the spreadsheet to do the calculation for us. And that's going to be job 1, job 2, kind of like page 2 will be the next one, and then job 3. So I'm going to start with job 1. So I'm going over to my Google Drive. And we had a Google Docs unit folder already. If you didn't, that's fine. But I would encourage you to create a new folder. And I'm going to call it Google Sheets. And then if I open that folder, anything I create now is going to stay within that folder. Just good file management. So I'm going to create a new document, or excuse me, a new Google Sheet. Just like with Google Docs, it's really important to name your sheet as soon as you open it so you can find things later. You don't want to have a whole bunch of untitled spreadsheets. So I'm going to click where the title is, and it's going to ask me to rename it. I'm going to call it Spreadsheet Assignment 1. Okay. Each of these are different cells. Okay. And I'm going to actually paste, I've got a copy of the thing as a picture here just to make it easier so we can see what we're going to be recreating. Okay, so job 1 goes across the top here, then has name of school, male, female, total. Okay, so I'm going to start with this job 1. If I type in job 1 here, you'll see it's only in cell A1. It's kind of like bingo calling A1, but I want it to be across A, B, C, and D. So what I can do is I can highlight these 4, and up here it's going to say merge cells. Now they're going to be in the middle, and I can do some stuff like centering here as well. So then I'm going to have name of school, and I can hit tab to get to the next one if I want to, male, female, or I can just click to get to the next one. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second, type the rest in. And I've got the rest typed in, and we're going to do a little bit of formatting, make it look nice. So each of these are kind of centered. I can make the size of this cell, of the column, A, if I want to. I can click on here and drag it and make it whatever size I want to. I can double click right on that spot and it makes it exactly the width of the longest value in there, but I'm going to just move it over a little bit. And the top ones, it looks like they were bold, so I'm going to highlight them all and do it all at the same time. Highlight them all and make them bold. And I'm going to go back over here and center them as well. And then the other ones, this total looked like it was on the right hand side, so I'm going to click on the total, and I'm going to have it aligned to the right hand side. Nice to have these grid lines in here, so I'm going to highlight all this stuff, and I'm going to say add the grid lines, which are borders. Okay, starting to get cleaned up here. Almost done. Job 1 maybe should be bold as well. I can change the size of the font too if I want to, just right here. Okay, so remember, as you're going through these, I'm showing you some stuff, but feel free to click on any of these and see what happens. Remember, you can always do Control Z to undo, or this little guy right here to undo. Okay, so now we have to do a calculation. We want to add this 38 plus 37. So we're going to say equals, because we're doing a calculation. And I can do this 2 ways. I could say this, click on this one, which is the 38, and then a little plus sign, 37. There's one way. The neat thing is that this says B3 plus C3, which means if I change this one to be like 138, watch what happens to the total when I hit enter. It changes as well, so it's called dynamic. And we're going to look at that one, or I could have said equals. There's a special function called sum. Sum just means add. I open a bracket, and then I highlight the things I want to add. And that says B4 to C4, and I can hit enter. Okay. Same thing on this one. I could do it either way, equals sum, bracket, and now it's going to be B5 to C5. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. I can also, if I delete these, I can do it in one shot if I want to be very fancy. I can say equals sum, either which one you want, equals sum of these two. And then I can click on here and say, you know what, I want to copy that formula. So if I get my cursor to go to a big plus sign, I could drag it down here, right to the bottom if I wanted to. And now it says this one is B3 to C3, this one's B4 to C4, and this one's B5 to C5, and this one's B6 to C6. So it actually predicted you want to add the two things to my left. Okay, so I can do totals coming down as well. I can use the same thing, equals sum, bracket, add these 3 things together. And I now notice how the total's increased, and I can even take this formula and drag it to the right if I wanted to, but double check it was right. If I click on here, it says sum of C3 to C5, or if I double click, it actually highlights what I'm adding together to make sure I got it the right way around. And then just enter to get out of there. Sorry, the first one's a long video. Okay, so then there's a job 2. So I could do it right here on this screen if I want to, or I can come down to the bottom here and say add another sheet. And it did tell me the sheet 1 I wanted to rename. I'm going to click on here and say rename to job 1. And sheet 2, kind of like page 2, I'm going to rename to job 2. So I'm going to click on here, rename job 2. Okay. And so job 2 looks like this. I'm just going to paste it in here for a minute to make it easier to see. I just happened to make a copy of it earlier to a picture. And job 2 again is going to come across the top. Now it's going A, B, I don't know why I did A, C, D, E, but it should be A, B, C, D. Coming across, I'll fix that one in the other part. So we're going to have it across here. We're going to merge cells again, remember? And then I can call this job 2 if I want to. Okay, everything else looks the same. If I click on here, I can go ahead and center it. Everything else looks the same. What about this part down the bottom? Which school has the largest population? I could type that in here, which school, but it gets a bit messy because you're going to have to worry about how long this is. Another thing I could do is I could insert a drawing, just like we did in Google Docs. And in the drawing, I could go ahead and type whatever I want. Sorry, spelling mistake there. And it's going to show up here now. And I can move it anywhere I want. So that might be a nicer way to do answering questions. And then similarly, we're going to have job 3.